Hi, my name is Kathleen Carlucci. I'm the director at the Thomas Edison Center at Menlo Park, located at 37 Christie Street in Edison. Tonight we're going to have the unveiling of the Centennial Plaque. This ceremony had been postponed twice because of bad weather, but nevertheless we're going to have it today. We also are going to have other additional programs. We're welcoming the Edison Volunteer Fire Department #1, and they're going to lay a wreath as they have done every year at the Centennial Plaque. And afterwards, we're going to have a nice show of a radio program by Raconteur of Metuchen. So we hope that you'll come down to the museum. We're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 10 to 4.
I saw many changes in this area. At one time it was a dirt road that ran up this street, and I appreciate what's done here, the inventions and the people, their efforts to try to bring it to light, and all the people that are working on the committees to try to get this project underway. I appreciate it.
I'm really glad to see that the tower is being finished. It's being done by the state, but also through the initiative of the Edison Memorial Tower Corporation, of which I am a trustee. I look at it as this is the symbol of Edison. This is our neighborhood. It needs to be improved. For many years it was kind of neglected, but we're going to make this really look beautiful the way it looked when it was first built.
So today we're here to rededicate the plaque that was actually first put up in 1947 to celebrate Edison's 100th birthday. It was actually a nationwide celebration. There were events all over the world, but especially in the United States. Cities throughout the United States had ceremonies of various kinds. But the major ceremonies were in two places: Milan, Ohio, where Edison was born, and Menlo Park, where he did probably his most significant thing, which was to develop the R&D laboratory and the electrical system that we all rely on today. And the tower, as Governor Charles Edison said that day, is a memorial to the creation of the electrical age. And so we're also here to kind of celebrate that as well.
My name is Morris Kaplan, ex-chief of the Menlo Park Fire Company, Edison, and our thing is we come up here every year and celebrate Edison's birthday, which we did this year. The logo was done by Mitch Ursick, who still lives on Christie Street, right down here, and he stops in at the tower, and he's a very talented man, and he's well in his 90s at this point. I just wanted to give him some recognition of doing that logo that we have on our fire trucks.
We're here today to rededicate the 1947 Centennial Plaque that was dedicated to Thomas Edison on his 100th birthday. And we're glad that we were able to get that replaced after it was stolen in 2009. We're also here today to honor one of our Eagle Scouts. As of today, we've had 9 projects completed here on the site. And if we can look at the sign to show you this latest Eagle project, that is a sign for the museum. And we're so happy that the Eagle Scouts can be part of this project and part of our site here, which we work very hard to keep up and keep updated.
I'm Len Sandelsky, Chairman of the Edison Memorial Tower Corporation. Thank you, colleagues and friends, for joining us this evening as we dedicate the newly minted Centennial Plaque, also known by some as the Fireman's Plaque, which Paul doesn't like us to call it that, but that's what we call it. A lot of people call it that. I'd also like to thank the EMTC board for following through on the plaque restoration, and board members Charles Tamaro and his son Justin, Kathleen Carlucci, Co-Chairman Dr. Paul Israel, and John Zimkowski for beautifying this area around the Centennial Plaque. Give them a round of applause for that. Big thank you to Tyler Kirigarto, which freeholder and founding member Charlie Tamaro will speak about a little later. I'd like to thank the members of the Metuchen Edison Historical Society for joining us this evening and for co-hosting this event with us as well. And we also are going to have the Racketeer Radio for their presentation. I'd like to thank them for their presentation tonight of the radio-style play entitled The Wizard of Menlo Park. I'd also like to recognize the Edison Volunteer Fire Company number 1 for their undying dedication to Thomas Edison and the site throughout the years. Let's give them a nice round of applause. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Boy Scout Tyler Kirigarto to raise the American flag as the Boy Scouts did at the original Centennial Plaque dedication in 1947. Thank you, Tyler. Now I'm going to ask our co-chairman, Paul Israel, to give us some historical remarks on the Fireman's Plaque or the Centennial Plaque.
So what I want to talk about a little bit today is why this was done in the first place. Why 1947? Anybody care to guess? Charlie, go ahead. Edison's birthday, that's right, 100th anniversary of Edison's birth. And it turned out that there were about 100 leaders in science, technology, business, and politics who got together and decided that there ought to be a nationwide celebration of Thomas Edison. He was still considered to be that important in the culture that it was important to celebrate this. The committee was headed by Charles Kettering, who was the head of research at General Motors. And also on the committee were a number of the people involved in the Edison Pioneers, who were the people that helped to fund the building of the tower a decade earlier. Most of the events were scheduled for February 11th. There was one event that took place a few days earlier in West Orange, New Jersey. Most of you have hopefully been there, and if you have, you've been in the library and you know that there's the roll-top desk of Edison that was sealed up at his death by his son Charles. Well, the Saturday before the event here, which took place on a Tuesday, Charles Edison was at West Orange to unseal the desk and to sort of open up the laboratory really as a museum, because that was one of the goals of the centennial celebration, was actually to fund the support for the laboratory as a museum. And there was actually a Thomas Alva Edison Foundation that was set up. They were trying to raise over $2.5 million for that, and they were also going to create what they called the Edison Center for Invention, Discovery, and Research at the West Orange Lab. Unfortunately, that never happened. But one of the major goals of that center did come to fruition, because that center was supposed to be a place to study and make available to all scientists the methods developed by Edison in making his own efforts so productive. And I'm happy to be part of what occurred many years later with the centennial of the electric light in 1979, which was the formation of the Edison papers. And that's exactly what we do, right? We make Edison's documentary legacy available and study the work that he did. The celebrations themselves encompassed a wide array of things. Almost every city in the U.S. had some sort of a celebration. Port Huron, Detroit, Michigan, Cleveland, Chicago. In New York, there were lots of things going on. So one of the things was that the Edison Pioneers had their annual memorial lunch, which they had every year after Edison's death. But this year was particularly special because of the 100th anniversary of his birth. Throughout the nation, about 30,000 schools, not only in the U.S. but in Canada, were given a set of posters about Thomas Alva Edison, and students were supposed to spend the day studying Edison. And about 10,000 science clubs in the high schools were intended to spend the day preparing replicas of many of Edison's inventions. So this was this major celebration that was taking place. Then later that night in New York, the American Institute of Electrical Engineers, along with 45 other professional societies, held a huge dinner at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel with about 1,500 people celebrating the life of Thomas Edison. And in the skies of New York, there were 6 high-beam lamps totaling, these Army mobile searchlights totaling about 100 million candle power, right? These could send beams 12 miles high, right? And so the sky in New York was lit up to celebrate Thomas Edison. But the main events took place in 2 locations simultaneously in the afternoon of February 11th. The first was in Milan, Ohio, Edison's birthplace. And there the post office had a special issue of stamps for Edison, and there was a booklet of those stamps given to Madeline Edison, his daughter with his second wife, Mina Miller Edison. Mina and her son Charles were here in Menlo Park, standing right about over there. Well, Mina wasn't. It was too cold. If you hold up the picture there, there's snow on the ground, and she was very frail. She actually died later that year, so it was too cold for her to come out. But Charles was here to dedicate this monument. And here's what he said on the occasion. "Nowhere else in the world were so many great things created in such a short time as right here." And it's the Edison Memorial Tower, he said, that is the symbol of the birth of the electrical age, which has given the world comfort such as never before envisioned. Right? And so this was a celebration of Edison's work at Menlo Park and the creation of the electrical system as well. The plaque itself was presented by the citizens of Raritan Township, which is what Edison used to be before it was renamed. And the unveiling was done by the director of the Middlesex County Board of Freeholders, a fellow named Robert W. Hale. And among the local residents, of course, were the Boy Scouts, and most importantly, Menlo Park's volunteer fire department, the Edison Engine Company. And of course, they continue to be involved every year with their rededication of the plaque when they lay the wreath. And so that's sort of the history of why this is here and what it celebrates.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to ask one of our founding members and our freeholder, Charles Tamaro, to give us a few words.
Thank you, Lenny. I get to follow Paul. And boy, that's a tough act to follow, let me tell you. I know the firemen are here, and I've been here many times during that February 11th dedication of the putting the wreath on the plaque. And many times there was a lot of snow here. And I think a couple times I heard in the past they would take the wreath and just throw it over the fence and leave because it was so cold. They even say any words. And a lot of times with a lot of snow around here as was in 1947, February 11th. But I'm here to talk a little bit about our scouts and the projects that they've completed around here. We've had 8 Eagle Scouts so far do projects around this area to beautify the Edison Memorial site. And our latest one happened to be awarded today of a young man named James who did all the landscaping around the museum. That landscaping was done by an Eagle Scout, and today he just got his Eagle Quarter, became an Eagle Scout. Tyler came to me a while ago and asked for a project, and I said the perfect project would be a new sign for our museum. And Tyler came to me and I said, you got to raise a little bit of money. He was a little worried at that time. How am I going to raise the money? I said, don't worry, we'll get it raised. And we did. Not only did we raise enough money, but we raised over $600, which he donated to us to help offset the cost for the plaque. So we want to thank Tyler for helping us to do that. And what a great day today is. I remember how cold it used to be. Let's do more in June instead of February. But I'll give it back to Letty, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Charlie. Give that to Paul. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask the Edison Fire Department to come up now and lay a wreath. Let's have all the EMTC board members come up.
Company attention. And salute. Two.
Would you like to say some words? Okay. All right. If you guys could, if you'd like to help us unveil this, you guys want to grab this and help us unveil it for the first time? The new Centennial Plaque? Okay. Let's have a countdown. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This includes this portion of our program, but we're going to have a presentation inside by the Raconteur Radio, so do not leave, okay? Thank you. Have a good evening.